Hello, everyone. Welcome to the network. Welcome to the Two Dads edition.
Wait, that's not it.
Start again. What's up, fat fucker?
Two Dads, Gen X edition. That's a great beginning.
All right, so we are we're back from the lake.
The puppy twins. Yeah, we were going to record.
Yeah, we were going to record there, but it was too loud, man.
Yeah.
There's a lot of boats
Yeah, who knew there'd be boats at the lake
on the 4th of July. Right?
Who knew? It was so loud too.
It was very loud.
Guess what?
What?
Chicken butt.
That was dumb.
Okay. So
My younger brother used to do that. He'd go, guess what? Chicken butt.
Guess why? Chicken thigh. Guess how? Chicken bow. Guess where? Chicken hair. A lot of chickens going down anywhere.
Yeah.
So, James, it's that time.
It's that time? What time? No. Don't do it. Don't do it.
We're going to
Don't do it.
talk about some happiness and joy. Mama, just killed a man.
Happiness and joy.
I don't want to die. So I ate some French fries and they went to my thigh. Carry on, carry on. Nothing else.
People are going to listen to this and be like, what is wrong with him?
I know, seriously.
Yeah. This is what we... Oh,
there it is.
no.
Yeah.
I still get a little bit uncomfortable with how you look at me when you play that.
Well, I'm really excited. Like
That's the problem.
I get my finger on the button, and it's like Bill Murray shocking the kids in Ghostbuster. And he just he just knows it, and he's like, "Oh, damn it!" And he even gets it right.
I know, yeah. And he shocks him
shocks
anyway. Bill Murray's hilarious.
It's like, bzz,
Yeah.
shocker.
You ever see Zombieland?
I'm like, wow, bring it up.
I know. Sorry.
Come on, spit it out.
Zombieland and Zombieland 2.
Well, yeah, I mean, Zombieland was cool because it was supposed to be Robert De Niro
Really?
as the zombie guy, but Woody Harrelson's like, no, I'm good friends with Bill Chase. Bill
Bill
Chase. I was thinking Chevy Chase.
Yeah, Bill Murray was awesome in there.
And then Bill Murray's like, oh, I want to pretend I'm already dead. And so like the reaction of the actors when they see him is actually legit real. Like they freak out. And he actually lunged at him out of reaction. It was pretty funny.
Yeah. I think in the second one it's funny as other survivors refer to, being Bill Murray'd.
Oh yeah. Bill Murray.
No, I saw Zombieland 2 in a pre-release, they wanted our opinion about it.
Oh yeah.
And so it was a different movie. The one that was, obviously it was a different movie than the one that got released, but they spent so much more time in the White House in the version that we saw.
Oh really?
And that was one of the comments was, it was like half an hour, almost an hour of just being in the White House and all these other things. And it's like, that just seemed to drag on
Forever, yeah.
And they cut it probably a third or a half of it out of it. So
it's amazing how much movies get tweaked and rewrote great segue. It's like you kind of wish you could do that in marriage sometimes.
Yeah.
With your communication. And so we want to talk about common mistakes in a marriage because movies,
we've made them.
They make horrible mistakes. They write something and the test audience is like, oh, yeah, that's kind of cringe. You know? So they kind of change it. And how many of us have said something really stupid as we're saying it, and we're like, son of a bitch, I wish I never said that.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. I've referred to it before in a previous episode. The book. No More Mr. Nice Guy.
Yeah. Well, that comes down to one of the things.
Yeah. So we'll refer to that in a little bit.
So, as a therapist, what are the common mistakes you see in a marriage?
So with the couples that I've worked with, and then as I reflect on my own life, I think probably the biggest contributor to problems in marriage, to mistakes in marriage, is lack of communication, effective communication.
Yeah, it's like the communication catastrophe, the granddaddy of all mistakes in a marriage.
It really is. And so a lot of people think they're communicating because they're talking, but they're actually not communicating because most of communication is listening.
Yeah, I was bad at that.
Most of us are. The majority of couples are bad at communication. I have, I've been interested and studied communication and, personally just before becoming a therapist, just because I thought it was so interesting. But even I fail at it. And I've been, understanding a lot of the dynamics of communication for years.
Yeah.
So, but it was probably the biggest thing as far as like in my first marriage. That was a huge thing that contributed. And it was definitely a big factor in the second one too, failing.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, definitely when I was younger, it was a big lack of understanding, communication. I didn't have the examples of healthy communication. Mm-hmm. A lot of times I was always shut down in general when I try to communicate, or I'd be like, hey, stop mumbling, stop doing this, stop doing that, kind of thing. So I learned to just kind of like let them have whatever they wanted instead of dealing with it in a way. But then, as we progressed, it became, I don't feel like you're listening to me. I'm not listening to you, tit for tat. So we're doing the whole tally crap. We
kind of get in our heads and just assume what the other person's thinking or feeling based on what they're not doing or what they are doing.
Yeah. And I think I saw a really awesome meme of a girl that's like, oh my God, guys actually say what they mean. Like, for 20 years,
right?
I'm trying to figure out. He's like, hey, I'm going to take a shit. Like, oh, he's going to go look on his phone. He's going to do this. Who's he hiding? When really he's just going to take a crap kind of thing. And, on the guy side, I think we feel like we're listening sometimes. And I think we're really bad about having our love languages and expressing those love languages that we want, thinking that's what they need or they want. And so, we talked about that in the past in a couple episodes about love languages and learning that understanding theirs and giving them what they need in their love language and vice versa. So with that communication catastrophe, what is the actual healthy way of active listening and expressing that?
Well, I mean, as far as I'll tell you from personal experience, because I unfortunately have a lot of that.
Well, then I also want the therapy one,
Well, and it's from the therapeutic perspective, because I mean, one of the benefits of being a therapist is I know a little bit more where I'm screwing up. It doesn't mean my life is perfect. It just means that I am more aware. And I'm very self-critical and all that kind of stuff. I try not to be, but one of the things that I recognized I was doing, and this happens, I think, often in relationships and in marriages and stuff like that. So I was on my way to my grandson being born, driving out there with my second wife, and she asked a question that was like kind of a rock and a hard place kind of question. Didn't matter how you answered it. It was going to be it could be interpreted negatively either way.
Yeah.
And I just made the comment. I said, every so often when you ask these questions, it's like, I'm not sure how to answer it. And so sometimes I don't. And she got silent. She didn't say anything. We're driving. And I was like, is everything all right? What's going on? Trying to, okay, what was the shift that just happened?
That you've said.
And I'm sitting here, I'm like, it doesn't happen often, a handful of times in the marriage so far, just, it's not a big deal, And so she finally said, well, I thought you were open and honest about everything. Now I'm rethinking our whole marriage. I'm like,
wow, that went deep.
Well, yeah. And I was like, it's not that big of a deal. It kind of surprised me that she would react that way. And it put this cloud over that entire trip.
Looking back, though, can you see why she thought that way?
I can, but...
No, but...
Okay, fine.
Everything before the but doesn't matter. See,
no, I can understand it, because it was like, I just said sometimes I don't respond to you, right? I don't verbalize what I'm thinking or feeling. And that's part of my problem is if I feel like I'm... Not that I'm going to get in trouble, but if I feel like the answer is not a good answer, or she might respond to, whatever I do say in a negative way, my default over the years has been not to answer or to shut down or to deflect or something like that.
Okay, so
and here's the reason why. Because the way that I then get the reaction is the negative. if I say something that they don't like, then I get yelled at, excoriated, ridiculed, whatever it is. And so I learned to shut down over the years more and more and more. And one of the reasons why that was such a pivotal experience for me in that marriage was because I thought that I was safe enough to be able to be open, and I very quickly discovered that I wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, with my last relationship, that person would ask me a question, specifically details about something, and I'd always like, "Are you sure you want to know something like that?"
Right?
And they're like, "Well, yeah," and then I would, and then it became ammo, against me, and it got to the point where I'm just like, I just stopped telling stuff. So the biggest lesson we've learned in general, so I'd say that's like the bullying and like going down to the shutdown mode, and that happens both sides of the aisle, 100%. Like,
when you say bullying, what do you mean by bullying?
Well, I think from my side of being bullied and vice versa, it's like, tell me why, why won't you just tell me why? And then when they do tell you, you're like, that's stupid, why do you feel that way? I didn't mean to make you feel that way, that's your fault that you feel that way, kind of thing. Like, you're just basically shaming them in a way.
Kind of that unintended gaslighting.
Yeah. And it goes both ways. Like, and I had to learn a long time ago that it's okay for your spouse to be mad. It's okay for your partner to be mad at you for something that they did. It's how you react to it and how they react to it what is defining a healthy fight versus a detrimental fight. Right. When it comes into name calling and why are you so stupid? Why did you think that way? Or like the partner.
Which I've never done that in a relationship.
I mean, you shouldn't.
No. I think it's so damaging when you start insulting each other like that.
Oh, the best one, is I hate you, or they start throwing the divorce word out, which we learned in counseling that's a form of manipulation. That's a form of handcuffing. It's a form of basically making that person submissive to your needs and stuff. And it doesn't help. And I knew, and it goes back to me saying winning and losing an argument, because it shouldn't be winning and losing, because there's no real winners. If you both walk away resentful, hurt, unheard, then no one really won. You just bullied that person more, or you were louder than that person.
And so if somebody's like bullying their partner and their partner complies, they think, oh, I won, or oh, they're doing what I want. I'm good. Well, you're really just building more resentment.
Yeah.
More anger, more division.
You
got what you want, but not in the way that it really could be. What if you got what you wanted because your partner wanted to give that to you, not because they felt like they had to? Yeah.
Well, and it just kind of go down this rabbit hole of more resentment, more frustration, and then eventually one of you just shuts down. Now, there's different versions, like with a gaslighter or a narcissist, when they realize, oh crap, this person actually has a backbone now and they're standing up for themselves. Guess what that person does? They try to make you feel bad about that. They try to bring you down in a way that you feel like you never can ever communicate again. And and it was hard, like, for the years of going to counseling, like having to relearn to hey, it's okay if they're upset. It's okay if they're mad. It's not the end of the world. Sometimes you just got to say, hey, let's walk away, come back when we're both not upset about it.
Well, and that's the important part right there is, let's come back to this. I just need 20 minutes to cool off here because I'm getting really upset, something like that. Yeah. But then actually coming back to it.
And the great thing is, if your partner, if you guys feel safe, you can tell them that. You can say, hey, I can't think straight. All I can think is really negative. I'm hurt. I just want to lash out, defend myself. And you don't need to do that. Like, it's taking that time to write your thoughts down and kind of figure out, okay, what am I actually hurt by? What could they have done differently that I wouldn't have been hurt? Or is this a triggering moment for me? Is it, kind of thing. So taking that time to step back and really understand why they got upset and vice versa. So with your ex, if she hears this, sometimes I feel like there's no win-win answer, but somehow it always gets thrown back in my face and it comes back to hurt me. So I just don't respond sometimes. As a partner, I should be going, oh, damn, I don't want him to feel that way.
Right.
Like,
well, and it wasn't that she would throw it back in my face. I mean, towards the end, that did happen occasionally. But it was that I was afraid of that.
Yeah.
And that fear was based on, I mean, really in the, like when you talked about I need 20 minutes and we'll come back to it.
Yeah.
So in my first marriage, there were a number of times where if I actually was starting to stand up for myself and I disagreed, she would just say, I'm done with this. And she'd walk away.
Yeah.
And we would not talk about it again. So there was finally, towards the end of that marriage, there was one time she said, well, I'm done. I'm done with this. And turned and walked away. And I said, how are we supposed to resolve anything if all you're going to do is walk away?
Yeah. And that definitely, but you get there. You get to where you want to go. I can't communicate effectively with you. You can't communicate effectively with me without us getting both butthurt and it turns into name calling or frustrated. And that always blew my mind when people would name call.
Yeah, I've never liked that.
And with my second relationship, I'm like wanting to say the name, but I don't. But kind of thing. It really was. It was so eye opening because she did a lot of what I did to Brenna and my first wife, my only wife, and it really was like, okay, this is God's way of saying, let me help you see what it was like to be married to you. and a lot of it was, but then I was like feeling it. Oh, she was really hurt. She didn't know how to communicate with me because I was butthurt and I was, and we were just fighting, and we grew away to the next step, the next segment of us taking advantage of each other to a way that you can't communicate because you're so resentful. You feel neglected and used and abused. And that just kind of kept going forward with the next relationship I had and the next one. It's like, holy crap, I got to break this pattern, Yeah.
But it's good that you recognize that.
Well, and the irony is it took therapy, actually sitting back. Okay, why do I
plug for therapy?
Why do I keep falling for these people that are it's not selfish, but like self-aligned. Everything needs to be their way. Yeah, but I think
sounds bad, right?
Well, yeah, and here I do what I do, where I make excuses for everybody. Like every relationship, some of my good friends are like, you literally make excuses for people, and I'm like, well, I've always learned to accept that today could be their worst day of their lives. You have no idea what that person did. You don't know why they snapped at you. It might not be, so I'd always, even in healthcare, I give my patients the benefit of the doubt because they're sick. They're in their worst time of their life. They're worried about their bills. They're worried about their family. They're worried about all those things.
But it doesn't excuse the bad behavior.
Well, right.
It understands it, but it doesn't excuse it. And so one of the things that I think is really important too is, if we see that, if we recognize we're treating somebody badly, we're in a bad mood, or whatever, that behavior is not okay. We need to be able to acknowledge that and work on it, and apologize for it, right? And that's something that doesn't happen usually. We all just excuse it because, well, it's just I was in a mood, or this is just the way I am, or whatever it might be.
But I'd rather have my spouse come to me and it's like, I'm sorry, I was in a really bad mood. I totally was bad to you, and I'm so sorry.
How often
can we try again?
How often did that happen before for you?
Well, the first one, it became like it was always the excuse. It's like, oh, I'm just tired. I don't know. I'm just tired. Well, so for me, I'm just tired is a huge trigger for me because it's like, I don't want to explain why I snapped at you or treated you bad because I'm tired. So let's just let it go.
That's what I'm asking, though, is how often did that happen where your partner said, hey, I'm really sorry for treating you this way. I should not have, like acknowledging their fault, not excusing it like, well, I'm just tired. Because that's an excuse.
Honestly, with Brenna, I don't remember just because it was such a long marriage and there's a lot of years that just was bad.
Yeah.
So I don't. Now, I remember with the first person after her, I found it refreshing that they would apologize, but later on I found out it was just kind of a way for them to be narcissistic and like, oh crap, I pushed them too far. Oh, I'm so sorry, kind of thing. And that, that relationship was abusive. She hit me and punched me in my sleep. Oh, that's okay. Kind of thing. So it just, going into taking for, people for granted. And I think it's really easy in a relationship without good communication that you just start assuming things. So let's say I get up every morning and I make coffee and breakfast for my, partner. Mm-hmm. Well, one day I'm like, oh crap, I'm tired, I'm behind, so I don't do it. And then they're pissed off and make me feel bad. Well, guess what I don't want to do anymore? Make breakfast and coffee anymore because you made me feel bad because I didn't do it one time.
Right. Screw it. If you're going to, if has it become an expectation and how that doesn't show appreciation if it's an expectation.
Yeah. And it's just kind of one of those things where you just go, hey, are you okay? You doing okay today? Like, you didn't seem like your normal self. You didn't make coffee, stuff like that. And it's kind of one of those eye openers where I would have been, I would have been like super apologetic, oh, I'm so sorry I didn't make it. I won't let it happen again. And that's where your partner goes, honey, I don't expect you to do that crap, man. I love that you do it for me, but no part of me is going to make you feel mad at you if you don't do it.
Yeah. Well, and part of the big problem is that, when we start doing those things for each other, it's appreciated in the beginning and then it becomes the norm and it's no longer appreciated. Now it's expected. And so it's like, there's more and more, and that's kind of what that book, No More Mr. Nice Guy, kind of refers to, is that nice guy syndrome of we're doing things, it's not appreciated, so we do more, or they say that, well, you're not doing this right, or you're not doing that right. And it happens both directions. But the book is more from the men's perspective, but it's for both. But it's, recognizing that nice guy syndrome of I'm doing and doing and doing, hoping for a return, and eventually we get to the point where we realize that we just keep on giving and nothing's being appreciated. We get resentful and angry.
Well, yeah, and that goes back to having someone that actually recognizes what you do and tells you, hey, thanks for cooking dinner, thanks for doing laundry. Oh my gosh, you didn't have to do that for me. When really it's just you do what you guys got to get done, in the house. And
you work together to get it all done.
And if one person gravitates towards one thing than the other, then that's where I think you'd be more appreciative of those kind of things,
And that's, part of what happens a lot is we kind of, that appreciation erodes over time because it becomes norm, right?
Well, I think it erodes because you're not saying thank you and you're not being appreciated, and then it becomes like a chore. And so, there's chores and then there's maintenance in my mind, so you're maintaining your home, you're maintaining your environment, you're maintaining your relationship, and the biggest mistake people make is they put kids, work, hobbies, in front, thinking this is going to work, this is going to bring me happiness. And I know for a fact that women really put their love into their kids. And that's where the neglectful part of the relationship. It's just like tiny building blocks of destruction of your marriage. It's like you're building a house to destroy your marriage, kind of thing.
And the trap of it is that prioritizing kids is a good thing. That's not a bad thing, right? They're important. You're trying to raise these kids, keep them alive, teach them, help them become good human beings, all that kind of stuff. And so it's like, well, when the kids need stuff, we take care of the kids. The mistake I think that happens is when that becomes, like you were saying, the priority over our own relationships, or work becomes the highest priority. There's a saying that I love very much, that I've tried to incorporate into my own life, where it's there is no success in life that makes up for failure in the home. But that only applies if we have a healthy perspective and healthy priority of what is the most important things in the home, right?
Yeah.
So one, we have to take care of ourselves, not in a selfish, egotistical way, but you can't pour out of an empty cup.
Yeah.
So you have to make sure that you are doing what you need to do so that you're healthy, so that you're happy, so that you're doing the things that allow you to then be in our case, the best husband or partner for our spouse, not by focusing solely on them, but because we are our best version of ourselves. naturally in that process, if it's a healthy relationship, the priority of the spouse or the partner is going to become almost a lateral priority. It's almost on the same exact level.
Yeah.
And so we're going to prioritize our partner. If, as a couple, we are prioritizing each other, then naturally we will also then prioritize our children, if there are children. But there's still this order of operation. There's still this order of priority. You know, if I am just done, if I'm exhausted and the kids want to play and I just can't, I'm not a horrible father because I don't play with my kids one day because I'm exhausted and I've been working too long or I'm working too hard or my body hurts or whatever. And so to have a spouse potentially who criticizes that and doesn't recognize the sacrifice, the hard work, all that kind of stuff. And same thing for husbands who come home and don't recognize the value if they have those traditional roles of, you know, the home is kept up, the dinner is, you know, cooking, all this other stuff, laundry's been moving, where we don't have to do much in the home because the practical stuff is being done.
Yeah.
You know, we become resentful, and that takes away from being able to honor each other. But without that priority, if it's, well, the kids come first and the spouse is last, they're going to get resentful.
Well, how often did you come home and they start a fight because they thought you were going to be mad? Got that a lot.
That's a good question.
So that's one thing that I really had to figure out in marriage counseling is I had to express to my counselor, it's like, well, it's weird because it's like I'll come home and the house will be trashed, and I work, you know, all 5 days taking care of the kids. Then I go to work Friday, Saturday, Sunday night at the time, and I'd come home the next morning and the house would be just trashed. Mm-hmm. And I'd be irritated because I maintained it, kept it enough, you know. But I also would go, well, at least she had fun with the kids. They had fun. They played a lot. They got everything. At least they got good quality time with their mom, kind of thing. But it was weird to come to find that, like, she'd be apologetic. Like, oh, I know the house is a mess. I'm like, it's fine. It's not a big deal. I'm going to get to bed, you know, so I can get enough sleep for tonight. And it was weird how it would always be a fight, you know, like, oh, I didn't get this done. I didn't get this done. And it was hard because I would actually have to ask, hey, can you do this for me? Can you get this done? Can you call this to get that done? And it's like, oh, yeah, yes, no. And we've talked about it in the past with guys. Don't commit to something and then not do it because you're just teaching your partner that you can't be dependent on, kind of thing. And, you know, we all have grace in between, like, okay, you're probably busy, it's fine. Mm-hmm. But I had to really, like, think about, like, what was my behavior to make her that way? And really it came down to her stepdad. Like, it just was just how he treated her, so she just assumed that's how I was going to do it. So without communicating and taking for my word of saying, no, it's fine, it's cool, we'll clean it up later.
You're not trusting it.
Let me, you know, get a nap kind of thing. And so, you know, that's kind of where the chore wars and assuming roles kind of came in effect, because it's like, well, she was great at making chore lists and I'd do all the chores and then she wouldn't do any of them.
Yeah.
And it's like,
would she say that she would do some of them?
Oh yeah. Like she'd have her roles and mine and
gotcha.
And I'd do mine, and then 3 days go by and none of hers are done. So I started doing all hers too. And it was like,
you think she was hoping for that?
Probably. But it was like the growing theme of don't assign shit if you don't intend to do your part of it, kind of thing. Because I'm not a fan of assigning crap. You know, I personally you just get stuff done when it needs to get done. And there's things that I'm more anal-retentive about, and there's more things that women are anal-retentive about. You know.
But it goes back to that communication. If you're not communicating, excuse me, you know, to just sit there and assume that somebody's going to do this, that, or the other, or that they're assuming that you're going to do, you know, this chore, that chore, follow through with that, without actually saying anything. And then if the person doesn't do it, that all of a sudden our world gets thrown out of whack. I saw an interview one time with a woman who she'd gone through a divorce, and the interviewer was like, when did you first realize that the marriage was over? And she said, he stopped buying the specialty like granola cereal that I liked from this fancy store or whatever. And she's like, there was one day I went, and he used to always make sure, he knew that I loved it, and he always made sure that there was some in the cupboard. And I went to the cupboard one day, and it was empty. He hadn't bought a new one. And I waited a couple of days, and he still didn't buy it. And I left the empty thing up there, and he still didn't get another one. And looking back, that's when I knew. And he had checked out. He didn't care anymore because, for whatever reason, but, not appreciated or whatever. And then she was asked, was there anything that you did for him that you stopped doing that you think was an undermining factor in your marriage? And she goes, oh yeah, blowjobs. Yeah. She said that she would give him all the time. And then she just didn't do it when it like daily practically. And she said, and then I, didn't feel like it one time. And then it became after, a couple of days I would do it. And then once or twice a week. And then it just stopped almost entirely. And it's I'm not suggesting that.
Yeah. The whole marriage failed because of that.
Right. But the point was.
Well, I mean, basically the next question would have been, so when you became less interested in intimacy with him,
mm-hmm.
What was that the factor? Because the factor wasn't the blowjob; it was she became less connected to him, so
right.
didn't want to do that. And that's kind of like the third failure is neglecting the us time, and
the intimacy.
We find ourselves going into another time zone,
right? Yeah,
the kid vortex zone, where the kids become so much priority that we lose date nights, regular events. You don't even have to freaking leave your house to have date nights with your spouse. The challenge is maintaining your individuality on top of the couple's identity after kids. I think so many people prioritize the kids. You see a lot of women after 20 years, they look at their husband and say, I'm not interested in you. We grew apart, but really didn't grow apart. You didn't grow together.
Yeah.
So you grew apart because you weren't growing together. You're doing your own thing, or you prioritized the kids too much.
Well, and there's the reality of, after having kids especially, the hormones change. Desire changes, things like that. And so, but it's neglecting that part of a relationship where, we aren't keeping that priority going. Just because you're not in the mood doesn't mean that you can't be in the mood.
Yeah.
You're just not in the mood right now. And if it's something that is, that connection with the partner is a priority, is an important thing for you, sometimes, and I know this is, a lot of people, especially women that listen to this, are probably going to disagree with this, but there were times where I wasn't in the mood. I mean, not a ton. But there were times where it was like, I wasn't in the mood.
Well, I think most of mine.
But I was happy to service.
Yeah,
right?
Am I too tired? Am I, just hurting too much, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I do think, and I told all our friends that were having kids after us that you have to have that date night every week. Even like you got to make her leave, get out, enjoy life, get away from the kid. I think the other thing is, sharing outside interests. Outside of the kids, like everything you do is based on the kids. Everything,
right? When the kids become the focus,
every activity we do is with the kids, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then by doing that, and as soon as we talked about this in the last episode, supporting your partner, once you start using sex as a weapon, like reward punishment. It's over for both. I mean, the guy's like, well, there's no point in doing this because she doesn't appreciate it, and there's no point in doing this because he doesn't appreciate it. When really, if you just communicate those things, hey, babe, I really need a date night. I mean, that's why they have so many cool date books and, to help people step out. And the sad thing with the inflation right now, it's really hard to not spend a lot of money when you go out.
Right.
On a date,
But there are things you can do that don't cost anything. There was a date that I went on years ago. This is just, before my second wife, and I was dating somebody. I came up with this idea of having a picnic by a lake.
Yeah.
She had told me what her favorite movie was. It was, what was it? Big Ass Spider or something like that. Big Ass Spider is one of those like D-roll movies. Graphics were horrible. But it was her favorite movie. She thought it was hilarious. And so I actually bought it. I found it on Amazon and bought it. And then we watched it on the date. And it was really cool. And it's, sunset, over the water. There was nobody around, so it was nice and private, all that kind of stuff. It didn't cost me anything. I mean, like $10 for the DVD, but everything else was just food that I had and, the gas to get there and back. But I didn't have to spend like hundreds of dollars to have a cool experience.
Well, and I think that's kind of, for me, I'm kind of a hopeless romantic. So like,
hopeless being the operative word.
Yeah. So big for me is like, I like to do small things, little notes here and there.
Mm-hmm.
I think my problem is I do them too much. So it becomes less meaningful. So I've really tried to learn to be more
selective.
Yeah, more not tactical, but like more like doing it in a way that actually means more and more sincere. Mm-hmm. Which I know Sid loves, and I've learned that if I am upset about anything, I can go to her and vice versa. And
right,
I feel safe that whatever I tell her is not going to be thrown back in my face. It's not going to be used against me down the road. It's like truly understanding that. And, it really comes down to, the life lessons I've learned over the time is how to listen more, how to not be butthurt, to hold that abandonment issues in my past of, okay, it's okay if they're mad. It's okay if they walk away. It's not the end of the world. It's how I react, which is going to make that go a certain way. And I have told Brent I'm sorry for my poor reactions in the past, and a lot of it was being butthurt, and I didn't feel appreciated for what I did and what I brought to the family, and there's a lot of lessons there. And I think to not get that far, you just have to keep doing those small things, and the things that you tell each other thank you and I appreciate you, and whoever's raising the kid dominantly at home, it's important for that person to express that kindness and love to that partner, because the hardest part about being a stay-at-home parent is you're alone. Like, it's lonely. Like, you get tons of time with the kids, but you need adult time, and you can go crazy. And there are times that vice versa comes home, they just want adult time. Yeah. It's like, please give me adult time.
That happened when I was in the Army. When I was, after my deployment, I changed MOSs, and I'd leave at like 4:45 in the morning to go to PT, and then come home from breakfast, shower, and then I'm gone again, and I'd get home 5, 6 o'clock in the evening sometimes. Kids, have dinner, homework, clean up, send them to bed. The kids are finally like shutting down at like 9:30, 10 o'clock, and then my wife at the time wanted to talk.
Yeah. Yeah, we talked about that.
Yeah, and I felt really bad because I was exhausted all the time, and she would get upset with me that I was falling asleep on her at like midnight, but I had to get up 4 or 5 hours later.
Yeah.
And it became a challenge in the sense that she felt like I was neglecting her, I think. And I was trying to give that, but yeah, it's and that's where, if the effective communication comes back in, and not, holding on to resentments and things like that. But I think a big thing for me is, as far as the lessons goes, is recognizing that my triggers are my responsibility.
Yeah.
And trying to stay out of my head.
Well, that's what I had to learn too. It's like, I can't hold someone accountable for something that someone else did in the past. And, and it's really important as the partner, you are patient, and it's my responsibility to express those, communicate those triggers, and let them know it's not you, it's me. I'm the one that's being triggered by this. It's like, so they better understand. And someone that loves you will be like, cool. I definitely don't want to add to it. Yeah. How do I not trigger you further? But and there's sometimes that they don't know. Like, that person might not actually know, and it's okay for them to say, honestly, I don't know. I just know I need to work on me, and I need to figure that out. And then just being there for them, and being a strength and a support, and hopefully vice versa. But yeah, it's I think the biggest, if we're going to recap the whole thing, the biggest mistakes come from a lack of communication. Yeah. And a lack of effective communication. Yeah, I mean, it definitely is. When you did this, it made me feel this way. I think if you did this instead, I may have not responded better. But the great thing is as the listener, you actually have to take a step back. You might be hurt by it. You might be offended by it, but you need to listen to what they're saying and repeat back. Like, okay, I think I'm hearing you say this.
Yeah. Look up the skills for active listening.
Yeah, is this accurate? And don't be mad at them if they don't quite get it right the first time. Like, actually go, I appreciate that you're hearing me and you're trying to understand, but it's this too.
Yeah.
It's this
and
too.
I would say that when we get reactive, when we get annoyed that somebody's not hearing us, that is our trigger.
Yeah. Well,
that is our issue.
Then you shut down and then you never learn anything.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and then we'll come back later. And then also tell you right now, when you're fighting about something, keep it to the fight that's at hand. Don't bring in other stuff.
Well, learn to fight effectively.
Yeah, it's not the time to bring in old mistakes or that's the scoreboard kind of thing.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Keeping score.
I learned to just live in the argument, live in the moment, and fix the moment.
And then let it go.
Then let it go. Gotta let it go.
If we're hanging on to it, we're holding on to the resentment, or we're just waiting for them to make the same mistake again so we can excoriate them again, that's not letting go. That's going to make things worse.
Yeah, and it's not saying, oh, you did it again, so you obviously weren't listening to me and you don't care about me. Like, people don't change overnight, guys. Come on.
No, it takes time. I'm 47 years old, and I've made a lot of mistakes for 47 years. It's going to take a little bit of time for those mistakes to resolve.
You're so old.
I know.
Dirty. All right, guys. Hey, thanks for joining us. I hope you got some out of it. The big thing is communicate.
Yeah.
Allow feelings, step away if you're getting too angry.
Remember, most of communication is listening, not speaking. Trying to understand why somebody says and feels the way they do, not just to the words that they're saying, but trying to understand why. And that's where active listening comes in.
It's good, man. Hit that like and subscribe button. Join us every Tuesday with new episodes. We appreciate you guys for joining us.
Yep. Remember, we do this because we love it. And if you enjoy it too, great. Give us comments. What do you like? What do you don't like? What do you want us to talk about? Other subjects that you haven't heard that you want to hear,
All right, Kansas City. Stay classy.
Oh, yeah.